we have Gregg Pinto joining us for Knick Talk, but we asked him to take a couple of minutes and weigh in on Yankee baseball. So without further ado, let's welcome in Anthony's son.
He's also a diehard Yankee fan.
That's right. Well, you were listening, hit the ground running.
Well, I think just to touch on Ottavino, it's almost depressing that we relied on this guy all year long, and all of a sudden he's out of the circle of trust. I think is what I told you the other day. If you look at his numbers last year, he kind of fell apart after August, and I think it kind of happened to him again. I don't think he was overused because he did get a lot of rest in September. Maybe this is what we're going to find during the length of this contract, is he's a guy that really, late in the season, may not have anything left in the tank.
We need him, so let's hope so. Now, Greg, and we have some very interesting baseball stuff, but question for you. On the last episode, I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you can handle it. On the last episode, we had some savvy Yankee fans call in, they weighed in, and then I asked them, I said, give us your all-time favorite Yankee postseason memory. Ooh. What would you share with us?
It's a tough one.
I would say, all right, I could sum it up in 2 words.
Okay.
Mr. November.
Whoa. Love it. Okay.
2001 World. Now, I know we lost the series.
Okay.
2001 World Series, Game 4. And just that moment where Joe Buck says, and this was before he was partnered with John Smoltz, who I can't stand. Joe Buck says, "You're watching the first pitch of November baseball." And a few pitches later, Jeter pops one over the fence and he rounds the bases, and it's a walk-off against.
Are you referring to this?
I think that is it right there. Yeah, that's it.
How does he do it?
I don't know. I'm the sign man.
You're like the sign
we didn't
man.
plan this either.
And and that ties into what you just said, because Joe Buck says Mr. November, and if you remember, somebody in the stands held up a sign.
Had a sign that said Mr.
So Anthony,
November.
Was that you, by the way?
I was ahead of my time, yeah.
Were you at that game?
And for me, I've been blessed that I grew up in a time where the only thing I've known is successful Yankee years. Since I was about 12 years old, the Yankees have been over 500 every year. And that was my favorite player. Derek Jeter is my favorite athlete of my lifetime. And to see that moment, it was after 9/11, and that series was they were down 2-0. All of a sudden, it's 2-1. You don't know if they're going to win that game. He hits the walk-off home run, and it had this experience of having hope. They're coming off of 3 straight World Series championships, so there was no doubt in my mind we were about to get number 4, and almost did.
Wow.
But that was a moment that I'll never forget. I was in college
memory.
celebrating with my
Great
buddies.
answer, and just like Jeter, you hit it out of the park. Awesome. Anthony, you alluded to, so
Quickly,
let's go because we got a lot.
Just a minute on the Nationals.
G8.
I'll tell you why it intrigued me, Mike, because they stole the Mets blueprint.
Yeah.
And this is how the Mets were built on starting pitching. Yeah. And this could have been and probably should have been, the Mets blueprint for success. So the Nationals raise it to an art form. They, get that great starting pitching from Scherzer, from Strasburg, from Corbin, and from Anibal Sanchez. And not only that, they get such length from them that their Achilles heel, the bullpen, hasn't really been exposed. They got 2 guys that they can even semi-trust in Sean Doolittle and David Hudson, semi-trust. But the thing is now, in the short series, these guys, the starters have been backing each other up. So, anybody on their throw day, these starters have been coming in and they've just been phenomenal and giving up, 1 and 2 hits a game and just completely went by the Cardinals. And they're going to be a tough out in the World Series.
Isn't it interesting? And we can tie some other things together, but we do have a graphic. If we could go over to G8, and it just as you said, when you look at that starting rotation, and what the guy in the middle with Patrick Corbin, he was one that was quote unquote only money if the Yankees wanted him, and just to tie one thing in because there's some controversy, and part of the controversy I buy with the quote unquote. We can leave that picture up, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a nice shot. It really is. But ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, there's a lot of controversy where there was a quote unquote juiced baseball during the season, and did they do something in the postseason to temper that a little bit. And you know what? For those that the conspiracy theorists and everything like that, you know what? There's a degree that I do buy it to a degree. And the St. Louis Cardinals manager Mike Schilt alluded to it, and he says the team's analytic department, they believe that the ball was traveling 4.5 feet less than during the regular season, and it's not just the colder weather. And Baseball Prospectus did a very detailed study, and they say the drag coefficient, etc. So I do buy it for a little bit. But here's what I would say to the St. Louis Cardinals, and it's got to do with Patrick Corbin, who I just alluded to. Patrick Corbin pitched the game and won the game that knocked them out, and also, it was a 4-game sweep. In 5 innings, ladies and gentlemen, he struck out 12. Grab your calculator. Project that out to 9 innings. That's 21.6. If the guy pitched 9 innings, he would have struck out 21 or 22 batters. I hate to tell you, St. Louis Cardinals, it wasn't the ball that did you in. Maybe the ball was, a little bit different, but that's not what did you in. It was that great pitching that you're looking at. And when you strike out, 12 times in 5 innings, it doesn't matter what ball he's using because you didn't even put the ball in play. So, and the same thing, and we'll come back to us, and, Greg, if you want to weigh in on that, because we got to get to the hardwood too.
I have one more point.
Yeah, but we're just sticking with that, even with the shot that Didi hit. Diehard Yankee fans, where the ball landed on the track. Reddick caught the ball on the warning track. And you say, well, the ball. I'm going to give you 2 reasons why I'm not so sure that the ball was the culprit. One, the weather is cooler. The wind starts blowing in a little bit. It's a little bit different than August and 80 degrees and high humidity. It just is. I've been watching baseball for 50 years. I've seen it for 50 years. The ball doesn't carry as much in October. They're playing these games at night, etc. Well, that game, by the time that ball was hit, it was late afternoon, early evening. But the other thing is, when the batter hits the ball, look at the batter's reaction. Didi knew immediately that he didn't get it all. Anthony?
I thought he was admiring that it went so far.
No.
I had a different reaction.
No, because you know why I know I'm right? Because they asked him after,
you are right.
They asked him after the game.
No, you are
and
right,
Didi
because
said,
I
just
think
missed it.
it was so close.
But that's what makes Garrett Cole
and to
great.
his,
He's a
and to
great
his
pitcher.
credit,
Yeah. I love Didi.
He's
a
said,
stand-up
I should have
guy.
hit it a little harder. He
Yeah.
said, that ball was right there. I should have hit it a little
Right.
harder.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting tie-in, and
Go
then
ahead.
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
In the offseason,
Yeah.
the Nationals decide to let Bryce Harper go.
Yeah.
Have a little extra money in their pocket.
Yeah.
When it comes to negotiating with Corbin,
Yeah.
Brian Cashman does not want to give him the 6th year. Nationals do.
Yeah.
Whatever else you want to say.
You're right.
I don't
all
even
things
think he
being
wanted.
equal.
He didn't want to give him the 5th year.
No.
He didn't officially give, but I think he was
Nationals
going
are
to
going to
do
the World
that. But you
Series,
want to
so.
know? Yeah. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, turnabout is fair play because everybody's talking about Garrett Cole, but consider this: Strasburg has been pitching out of his mind. That's true. Okay, and a lot of people are not talking about this. He has the option to opt out at the end of this season. So who knows what the Yankees are going to do? Obviously, we all want them to get Garrett Cole, but I could just picture the Yankees saying, well, we didn't want to go the extra year. We had a number in mind, and it didn't start with the number 3. I don't think he's going to go for 3, by the way, but I think he's going to come just south of that. But the Yankees I could easily see the Yankees saying, however they want to rationalize it. But then you start looking at a guy like Strasburg. You say, boy, I wonder how much he would cost, and that would be a little bit of turnabout is fair play, where they got Corbin, and maybe this year, after the season, we could do that.
I think that was part of Cashman's reasoning.
Yeah.
Wait, see what happens next year.
Greg, you make the call. We have a limited amount, but you want more baseball, or you want to go right to the hardwood?
I would just say let's get to the hardwood, but I would say with respect to Cole, I think it's going to be a 3 and maybe bigger than a 3. That guy's going to break the bank. He's coming off probably a Cy Young. Possibly winning them, being the key piece to winning a World Series for Houston. Guy who has been nothing but lights out in the playoffs. I don't know how.
Right,
what do we always say? Did he have his Tommy John yet?
Did he have his Tommy John?
He's going to. I think he's going to set records. I think he's going to get the biggest contract ever for a pitcher.
I hate to predict, but if the number starts with the number 3, I don't see the Yankees doing it.
I think you're right.
You know what? We're so excited. Let's get to the hardwood. Guys in the booth, stick with us. We're gonna get pumped up. We're gonna go to G9, Anthony hit the ground running.
And there's another team in New York that's trying to win a championship. Maybe not this year. So let's take a step back and then we'll kind of fast forward. When we were here last year, talking when they wind up trading KP to create cap space. The plan sounded like a good one. Have enough money, enough cap space to bring 2 max contract guys here. That along with kind of tanking, if you want to call it that. The plan was maybe get up to Zion. So now we look, no KD, no Kyrie, no Zion. What was your opinion? And to rub salt into the wounds, those 2 guys wind up going to Brooklyn.
Ouch.
Ouch.
What was your reaction?
It hurts to even hear it out loud. I'm not going to lie. I think when those 2 guys went to Brooklyn, it stung. I think but now, with the passage of time, I'm actually a little bit relieved. I don't think those guys, those are massive injury risks, and I don't think we were ready to take on risks that way. Tanking for Zion, I think tanking was the right move. Porzingis was on our team when we started the year last year, and he wasn't going to play all year.
Ping pong ball gods didn't smile on us.
Right, and we had an extremely young team. I think at one point started the youngest starting lineup or the second youngest starting lineup in NBA history. And so they weren't going to win a lot of games anyway. I think it made perfect sense to tank, get the best pick they got, and you know what? They got a really good one.
That's good. All right, so let's talk about how they did go about rebuilding and see what your thoughts are on that. Now, they could have gone the route of the Nets, right, and start taking on a lot of bad contracts in exchange for high draft choices and hope that works out. But instead of that, they took on a lot of what they call one-and-one contracts, 1 year and a team option, and they bring in a lot of guys with some versatility and experience and try to rebuild that way. So what do you think of their plan?
I didn't mind that at all. This team is flooded with young players. You look at the roster, R.J. Barrett's 19, Kevin Knox is 20, Ntilikina is 21, Mitch Robinson is 21. Even, Julius Randle they brought in is only 25. I mean, the team, Dennis Smith is 21. So the team is flooded with young talent. I think what Scott Perry and Steve Mills wanted to do was surround those guys with NBA veterans that could help them learn the NBA game. They all have talent. They're all young and ready to, they're like the little babies out there. We want to form them into real NBA players. And the only way you could do that sometimes is with good coaching and good veterans to put around them.
So you think they're going about it the right way?
I do. Look, they got a couple of picks from Dallas in the Porzingis trade, so they got some extra draft assets. They still have the ability to flip some of these, 1-year contract guys. Who's to say they don't trade off, Marcus Morris or somebody in the middle of the year to be able to pull back a pick. So that's always available to you.
So let's take a look at the roster. A lot of new faces. Let's start, Mike. I think you have a graphic of our number 3 draft choice,
Okay.
R.J. Barrett.
If we can in the booth, gentlemen, G11, very exciting.
What do you think of him, Greg? Now, there were some red flags in the summer leagues. He didn't have the best of starts, a little bit of a slow start. Questions like, can he have that same type of explosiveness in the NBA that he exhibited in college? Is his jump shot good enough? Can he shoot the 3 well enough? Can he get his, as they say? Is he selfish enough to look for his own shots?
Yeah, that one's an interesting one. I think that some of the red flags or question marks a little overblown. Okay. Again, he's 19. Right. He spent 1 year at Duke, 1 semester basically at Duke. Before that, I think the thing that everybody forgets, he was the number 1 recruit in the country coming out ahead of Zion Williamson. And for really good reason. There's a lot to love about this kid. I love that he's a lefty. I think that his shot is a work in progress, but he looks like he has the ability to put it all together. It may not be this year. A lot of rookies don't shoot the 3 very well in their rookie year. But, if you watch the way he plays, he's got great vision for a guy his size. Yeah. He really distributes the ball well. He wants to distribute the ball well. And I have a prediction. You heard it here first, folks. R.J. Barrett is going to get a triple-double at some point this year. Because he does. He fills up the stat sheet. He's very active. Like I said, he moves the ball well. He rebounds. So there's nothing not to like about this kid.
And you know what I like? I guess coming from Duke and just his whole background, he hates losing. And, already you could see that intensity.
And he wanted New York.
Right.
He wanted to be here. Grew up a Knicks fan. You know, sometimes you don't know if that's, actually the truth or something that he said. But even before they drafted him, all you heard from his supporters were that he desperately wanted to become a Knick. He was overjoyed. And, I mean, how often do you hear the crowd cheer when the Knicks make a draft pick? Usually they're booing. You see the kid crying. This year, everybody was overjoyed. So it felt good that our front office actually made a good basketball move.
Let's hope he works out. Now, I said they were very frugal. One guy they weren't so frugal with, Mike, is the next guy we're going to talk about.
G12 in the booth, Julius Randle.
Greg Julius Randle gets a $63 million contract. With that comes a lot of responsibility. Can he be a team leader? Can he play in all-around games? Is he going to play defense? Is he going to make everybody else around him better? What do you think?
I think a lot of those questions will be answered in a positive way. I don't think we know exactly yet, but he earned that contract. This guy was really good last year. He maybe not first team All NBA, but he had a great season. 22 points a game, 8.7 rebounds, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Career, his average is, I think, 9 rebounds a game. So he doesn't just score. He's an excellent post scorer, plays some of that bully ball that we love in Madison Square Garden, but he also rebounds the ball. I don't think I think some of the questions about his defense are overblown. I think he could be a good team defender, especially with a guy like Mitchell Robinson, there to protect the rim behind him.
Guys in the booth, because Greg is giving good insight. Can we go over to G12 just so our viewers could get a visual? Julius Randle. There you go.
There he is, the big boy. I think also, something that they lacked last year. He's a guy, a good half-court option. So when the offense gets bogged down, nobody likes to see that ISO ball style. But you know what? It's inevitable. I don't think we're going to be playing in the playoffs this year, or maybe, if anything, a quick sweep as an 8th seed. But we all know that in the playoffs, you need some half-court offense. This is a guy that you could dump the ball down to him in the post, and he can go to work. And you're going to see a lot of that this year. Like I said, 22 points a game, 8.7 rebounds. Those numbers don't lie.
That's what you want.
He earned that money.
Yeah. So then they brought in a bunch of other, you were alluding to, experienced, talented guys. They kind of, one of the knocks was that they all kind of play the same power forward position. You got Marcus Morris, Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think even Elfrid Payton is another veteran that they brought in, Wayne Ellington. I probably could have done without a couple of those. I don't think they needed to add all of those guys, in particular Payton and Bobby Portis. But the fact that they brought that veteran talent in, to me, it just shows how serious they are about building the young guys on this roster. And, with the departure of Porzingis, they had a gaping hole at power forward. The only real big man we had was Mitchell Robinson. So they added 3 power forwards, plus if you call Marcus Morris a power forward, maybe they added 4. But I think Taj Gibson is really the backup center. I don't think you have to call him a power forward. Randall's your starter. You needed a starter. They didn't have one. So I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be.
One thing we haven't mentioned yet, as I say, let's get to the point guard battle. Dennis Smith Jr., Elfrid Payton, and your guy, Frank.
Yeah, this is where the wheels fall off a little bit. I don't know if I call him my guy. I've been very critical of him, but I think that he's the type of player that I don't even like calling him a point guard anymore, because he's not. I don't know what his mold is. All I know is he does one thing that nobody else on the team does, and that's defend really well at the wing and at the guard position, and they need a guy like that for sure. So even if they have enough scoring, they just paid $60 million to Julius Randle to take a scoring load. They like what they're getting out of Kevin Knox, I think, when he's out on the court. We know that R.J. Barrett is going to put up his shots. Hopefully he shoots efficiently. But, I think if you put Frank out there, especially when you're running out lineups with Frank Ntilikina and Mitchell Robinson, maybe throw in Marcus Morris on the court at the same time, that's a good defensive lineup. And that's how you win games in the NBA.
So there's some hope for him.
There's some hope for him. Now, you said point guards. Let's hope it's a real competition.
There's some trade rumors, right?
They might. They might. There's some teams looking at him. I don't know. I don't know who emerges as the starting point guard on this team, and I think it's possible at the end of the year we're still looking for our point guard.
One thing that the Garden definitely needs is star power. Going back to the days of Clyde and Willis Reed and Patrick Ewing, right? You need that star. I'm going to give you 3 names. I want you to tell me who do you think has the most likelihood to emerge. R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox, or Mitchell Robinson? Or maybe comment on all 3 and their star power.
Jury's out on Knox. I think right now I would say, he had a rough rookie year. He was also really young. He was the 2nd youngest player in the league, so I'm not giving up on him. But I would say, if you ask me, out of those 3, R.J. Barrett without a doubt. I think this kid is going to open some eyes about how quickly he can be really effective. And look, I think Mitch is a star, but maybe in the Knicks fans' hearts, he's a star because he does things that we like to see. He blocks shots. He plays tough defense. I mean, he's 7'1", and he's running guys off the 3-point line and blocking 3-pointers, blocking James Harden on a 3. So those are the types of things that we love. I don't know if he's, a national name or a national star until maybe he puts a little bit more offense together.
You mentioned defense. Last season, Knicks ranked 28th in the NBA in defense. Coach Fizdale made it a major point of emphasis in training camp. But it seems like this is a kind of a ritual every year. They talk about it, they work hard in training camp, and somehow, somewhere along the line, it loses emphasis. What's your overall impression of their defense?
I think some of those veterans are going to help. So that's why bringing in Taj Gibson, bringing in Marcus Morris, retaining Mitchell Robinson, obviously, and we expect him to get big minutes this year as opposed to last year where they kind of eased him into the season and he tended to get into foul trouble until later in the year when he learned to control that. So I think you have a full year of Robinson protecting the rim. You have those veterans that have come in. And again, I think Ntilikina and Elfrid Payton have to get some minutes just to be able to play some defense up top. I didn't see a lot of talent out of Kevin Knox at that position. I'm unsure about what Barrett can bring in terms of defense. So that's why Frank, I think, is so versatile. He leaves a lot to be desired on the offensive end, but he's so versatile that he could guard basically 1 through 4 out on the court. If he's out there, they should be able to play some good D.
All right. Mike, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
I was talking to Greg, and then we'll get him to weigh in on this. There's this one guy, Marcus Morris, I think it was the first exhibition game. He's out there throwing his elbows, and he got called for a flagrant 2 and what. But I was it caught my attention the comments he made after the game, and he said, I want to start the trend here that nobody's going to disrespect us in the Garden. Not in our house. This is going to be our style of play. We're going to protect the Garden. But yet, you don't want a bunch of thugs, right? So where do you draw the line there?
Yeah. Well, it's good, as Greg alluded to, it takes a village. It takes a team. It takes more than just lip service, because I've seen it with the Knicks year in and year out, just as you said, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, I mean, I like to see a guy who's a little chippy, and he's like, you're not going to come into the paint and all that, but it's not going to go anywhere if he's, right. So
I think a guy like that, you have to win if you bring in a guy like that. And what I worry about with the Knicks, what I always worry about is, the pressure of a losing season all of a sudden, changes the dynamics of the team. And a guy like that who wants to be a tough guy, all of a sudden the losses start to mount, I think can become a real cancer in the locker room. So that's what I worry about. Now, if they're winning, that's a great attitude and a great lesson. I'd love if some of the young guys, if Kevin Knox all of a sudden started to come up with the same attitude and play some tough, hard-nosed defense. I would love that. The guy's all arms and legs. I mean, he'd be a great defender if he applied himself.
What position does he play?
Morris?
Power forward?
He's like a 3 or a 4. Power forward and a small forward. I think he could do a little bit of both.
He's not it's not like
Right.
funneling everybody to Shaq, and he's going to start. He's not really impactful. Okay.
So, what's the bottom line here? So, here's the problem as I see it. Look at Vegas over and under for the Knicks. It's around 30 wins. And to me, that's the worst position you want to be in, is kind of stuck in the middle. You're not going to be a lottery team. You're not going to be a playoff team. What are the goals of this season?
I don't think the goals have anything to do with the record. I think this year, look, if they win 35 games, 40 games, and they're competing for a playoff spot, that's great. But I think the goal of this season is developing the young guys. Barrett, Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, Mitchell Robinson. Those guys are all young. Trier, we didn't even mention him. There's some of the lesser names, Iggy
Start learning
Brazdeikis,
how to
second
win,
round pick.
developing a winning culture.
Sure, I mean all of those things. That goes in hand with developing the young talent. And if they're not doing that, I don't care. They didn't bring in these veterans just to win 45 games and be an 8th seed. That's not important. What's important is that the young seeds that we've planted can grow into something in the garden.
Right. Because that's going to lead me into my last question. So, and I agree with you. You got to build the core, but then it's nice if you could get that one free agent that's going to put you over the top. Now, this year, that didn't work out well. You see anybody on the horizon that might be interested in coming here?
Nope, I am not doing it. I'm
Not going there.
I'm done with the free agency question. I'm done waiting for a savior to come save us. What I want us to build the team the right way. And if a free agent makes sense to come in and complement the talent that we've already developed, that is a healthy way to build this team. It is not healthy, as we just witnessed a few months ago, it is not healthy to just sacrifice everything at the altar of bringing in a big-time free agent. So I don't want to develop my team that way, and I hope that Perry and Mills don't want to do it either.
And my last question, if Brooklyn got to the NBA Finals, would you root for them?
No.
See, he's like
I would
Ira.
not. No way. This is a New York town. The Nets are a Jersey team. I don't want to hear it. No, I will never root for them.
Well, we
I
love
hope
it.
they
I
do
agree
well.
with you.
And go New York, go.
Go New York, go.
Right?
Speaking of Ira, we have a jam-packed show. We're going to go over to In the Booth, G15. We're going to welcome in Ira from Staten Island. Ira.
Hey, Mike, Anthony, how are you?
Hey,
guys?
buddy.
Good
We're,
How are you?
We're doing great. We're going to go over to G15, and we're going to give you the
The floor.
let's see. We got a picture of Sam Donald, whatever picture it is. I don't know which one it is. But there you go. Ira, boy, oh boy.
Looking good.
We have on the screen a picture of a healthy, hopefully, Sam Donald. 2 TDs, 24 for 32 on the day, 338 yards passing, 113.8 quarterback ranking.
Great.
And while we're giving him kudos, I want to give you kudos because the final score was 24-22. You sent me a text message before the game started. You say, Mike,
He nailed it.
says here, Jets are going to beat Dallas 24-23.
Yeah,
Kudos to you, Ira.
Hope you had
Well,
some money on it.
Well, no, I don't put money, but I'm gonna go a step further.
What?
Okay, now I'm saying a big INF for this Monday night. If they could get
Oh.
Bell going, okay, if Bell finally has a breakout game, Jets 23-20.
Oh,
Whoa.
Ira.
Breaking news.
Is,
Love it.
Is C.J. Mosley playing?
It's pointing in that direction.
We need
all-
him. Is Herndon
that
play? Is Herndon going to play?
No,
he's out.
Herndon's not going to be there. And I think Donald's spleen is a little healthier than it was last week.
Boy,
Ira,
he's going for the upset.
Take us through the Dallas game. My brother was there too.
Yeah,
We're
it
going
was
to
great.
talk about that in a minute. And just they jumped out to an early lead, and thank God because it seemed like there were a lot of Cowboy fans in the house. Tell us about the day as it unfolded.
Yeah, well, it was a great day. Of course, they had the all-time team that voted by the fans there, so it was great that they got a win with all the old-timers there. And you're right. There were probably about 30% of the building, maybe a little more Cowboy fans. And you saw how the game started out. It all went the Jets' way, but in typical Jets fashion, you could never sit back and relax. And of course, the Cowboys have a comeback. And, it goes down to the wire. But the thing that I loved about it the most is that the defense really, without Mosley, Hewitt went down and McClendon got hurt. But, they hung in there. They played strong. And Greg Williams dialed up that all-out blitz on that 2-point conversion. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to get burned with it. But with the game on the line,
That
you
was
know
the
what?
right-
I'd rather put it in my hands, and whether it works or doesn't, I'd rather go try that way than sit back and let them dictate how it's going to go.
Yeah, I thought Adams played a great game. He almost got to Dak there on that 2-point conversion.
I was just going to say that. He didn't even have. I mean, he broke up the play
But
well enough.
that made the
you know,
play.
he drives us crazy sometimes. He's got a big mouth.
Yeah.
But Ira, that guy
He played
leaves it out on the field
He played a
every
great game.
game.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's hard to do that against Tom Brady because sooner or later he'll figure it out. But I'm going to dial back the clock to 2002. I think it was 2002, up in Foxborough. Okay, on a Sunday night, just came off a bad loss to the Chicago Bears, and they go up to New England, and Herman Edwards dials up a defense where he blitzed Sam Gons all night the way they did Adams, and Pennington, had a really good game. Off the top of my head, 30-17, 34-13, one of those type of games. And I think that's what they have to do. You know what? If you sit back and just play coverage against him all night, you're not going to have a chance. So be aggressive. You got nothing to lose. Go out there, let everything hang out. And I said it once again. If they could get Bell going, I think that the Pats haven't lost the game. I looked it up. It's 11 straight games that they've won going back to last year. They are so right for the taking, and I think it could possibly happen this Monday night.
Well, Ira, I think that's interesting that you say that they have a shot against the Pats, because I was going to say to you, in looking at the schedule, that weeks 8 through 14 are all winnable games. So do you think that the season is still salvageable?
Well, I really want to take it one game at a time because
True.
as much as I'm optimistic about Monday and I'm thrilled about Dallas, let's not kid ourselves. The offensive line still is what it is. They only look better because Donald was out there and he was making quicker decisions. All right. Now, once again, when Herndon does come back and Mosley does get back on the field, I think that, I think if I'll go back to before Donald ever even came down with the mononucleosis. Coming out of training camp. Okay, I had them at 4-4 after the first 8 games. If by any miracle we could pull this off against the Pats, I think that's doable. And if we could get to 4-4, anything's possible.
Right.
I mean, the Jets could. I think Donald shows you. I think they could beat any team, and they could also lose any team.
That is true.
So I still, it's still an incomplete team, but it would be a lot of fun if we beat the Pats on Monday night. That would be great.
Well, first I'll throw a negative. Assembly, I was so disappointed in generalities. That offensive line.
Yeah, I would agree to you. I mean, I was
They played
thrilled
well.
with the signing. I think we all were. And it just, it's one of those things that just didn't work out. Thank goodness that Douglas had the knowledge of Alex Lewis, and he brought him in because Alex Lewis looks like he's going to fill the bill for the rest of the year if he stays healthy.
And on a positive note, just as you said, Herndon coming back, C.J. Mosley coming back eventually, a soft schedule. Why can't we do some damage?
There's no reason why we can't. And you know what we just saw last week, and I was thrilled to see this. Now, I like Enunwa, but it is what it is. He's an injury-prone player. But the type of game that Demaryius Thomas gave us last week, you know what? He put up kind of Enunwa type of numbers, 4 catches, 60-something yards. Thank goodness he, after he bobbled that onside kick, he was able to grab it. But you know what? When this evening I started doing some reading about what the players said today. And I'm not the type of guy that likes players chirping or this or that, but Jamal Adams came out and said that this is a must game Monday night. It's a playoff type of game. Donald came out and said that once Herndon comes back, that this could be an unstoppable offense. Okay, Demaryius Thomas came out and said that Belichick's going to kind of pay the price for he didn't want to be there anyway. So they're all kind of chirping, and you really don't want to do that against the Pats. And in the past, I would always say, "Oh, this is not good." But you know what? I love the attitude. I love that they're going into this game with a chip on their shoulder.
And we love Ira from Staten
love
Island.
your
Nobody
attitude.
brings it down better. Ira, thanks for taking a couple of minutes. Jets.
Go Jets!
Boy, oh boy, if you nail this prediction,
Ah.
you got it. Ira, thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
If he shared that with Benigno, did he go on
we
the
got-
air with that prediction?
Guys in the booth, because we talked about family and everything else like that. We have a picture. I know if it's G14. We got my brother was at the game, and we have a nice photo of that. And then we're going to also put Greg on the spot while we're searching for that picture of my brother. Hey, Anthony, here we go, right? Cousin friend. Hey, there we go.
And Greg was there too. We don't have him in that shot, but
Nice.
a
think I
good
took
time
the
was.
picture.
He was the photo.
It's all about
good time was
family.
had by all. We've been doing this for a number
Great job.
of years.
If
yeah.
we can come back to us, like just a little bit of equal time, keeping up with the Joneses. Let me ask you a question. We got a couple of seconds left. Do the Giants have their quarterback?
Yeah, jury's out. I'm gonna say yes. I think
all
I
right.
see a lot of really interesting parts of his
think
game.
so?
I mean, we've been craving a guy that can move for the last couple of years while Eli stood back there like a statue. So I think so. I see a lot of things I really like in him.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
Saquon is back, so
Why
things are
not make
looking
some
good.
noise?
That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Put a bow on it. It doesn't get any better than that.
Go Knicks.
Go Knicks. Hopefully you enjoy the episode. See you next time, ladies and gentlemen.
God willing.
There you go.